But I'm really honoured now to invite our guest speaker. Vici Wreford-Sinnott is someone I've known for a long, long time. We've been through a lot of ups and downs through life working in disability and deaf arts. But she has so experienced and been an absolute brilliant campaigner in really fighting the corner for disabled people and their voices into particularly what this pandemic has been doing to our lives. So please welcome her with a little deaf wave as I hand over to Vici. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Thank you so much, Ruth. Thank you to everybody. What a brilliant event this is. And I feel so excited, so honoured to be here. I'm going to take a little bit of time just to talk about our experiences, both before the pandemic, now, and where the hope lies, really. I'm a tall white woman in my 50s with bright turquoise hair. I'm wearing dark rimmed glasses, a black top and a colourful scarf. My pronouns are she, her, and I use the term disabled person when describing myself. As I said, I'm pleased to be here. My talk is presented under a number of different headings. The first of which is I am who I am. We must state who we are without apology. So my name is Vici, and I'm a disabled human being, which for me means that I am disadvantaged by society's systemic and cultural barriers. However, I am also a mum, a partner, I'm an artist, I'm a punk, I'm a writer for theatre and for screen, I'm an activist, and I bake amazing cakes. I hope I'm good company, and I hope I'm a good friend. Like all disabled people, like all people, we are so many things, so many vital things to our families, our communities, and society. And so today I speak to you with complete solidarity. And I also want to recognise disabled people all over the world in all of our intersectional communities, Black, Asian, and people of mixed heritage, LGBTQIA+, younger, older, transgender disabled people, those who are segregated and institutionalised, and those whose society silence and erase them. I will speak to my own experience, but I acknowledge and value the experiences of others. We are not a community without everyone. It's essential to get used to stating who we are with pride and without apology. It's important that we do that and that we claim space and our rightful place in the world. I celebrate you. The pandemic has brought terrible realities for so many of us. It has brought the pre-existing condition of disability discrimination to the fore. And so I'm going to offer a content warning that I will be covering what has happened to us, what our testimonies are of this period. But it's also essential to make space to talk about unity, positivity, and hope. I believe that art and culture are key to changing the status of disabled people, and I join you happily in this call to action. Disability is family. Disability is family. It's your mum, it's your dad, it's my partner, it's their kids, it's your aunt, it's your uncle, it's people that we love and spend time with every day. It's me and it's you. And if it's not you now, it might be you in the future, because as we know, 70% of us become disabled as we age. It's a natural part of life. Disability is community. It's our neighbours, it's our colleagues, it's people that we care about and value. So I wonder, how do we get from that local family neighbourhood position to one of complete inhumanity at societal levels? How does it happen that we sweep massive proportions of society to the furthest margins and show them the least regard? How do disabled people have such low status? As we know, we are positioned as the deficit version of a human being. Now, as a disabled person, some of what I know is because I know it. I live it. My friends, family, and colleagues live it. We, as disabled people, know exactly what is happening during the pandemic. We live it. But the narrative is out of our hands. Our story seems to be in the hands of others. Ideas about disability have been constructed and so carefully crafted over thousands of years. However, some of what I know is because of the hard work of others, the importance of gathering and sharing testimonies and stories, such as the International Disability Alliance, all of us here, disabled people's organisations and disabled artists. Disabled people have been busy. The pandemic has brought the treatment of disabled people in society into sharp focus. And I will state it again that that is a pre-existing situation. Much of this isn't new to us. I've referred to the vast gap between disability as family and people we know and love, and then how disability is presented as some sort of shameful societal burden. What is the reason for that? And as disabled people, communities in solidarity, what have we done to address it, shift it, and turn it on its head? Our community has been resourceful, innovative, and pioneering. Our disabled academics have put in the time. They have researched, they have gathered our testimonies, they've analysed social policy and social constructs. They have told the world, but the world hasn't listened. Our disabled artists have put in the time. They have created platforms, challenged dominant thinking and lazy stereotypes. They have offered up new stories told in new ways. They've corrected old, mistold stories with accuracy from disability perspectives. They have told the world, but the world hasn't listened. Our disabled activists, disabled people's organisations and journalists have put in the time, researched, reacted, put their lives on the line, chained themselves to every injustice possible for decades. They've told the world, but the world hasn't listened. Any change that has come about for disabled people has come from that hard work, from lifetimes given to activism, from self-determination and rights movements, and from allies who have committed to us along the way. And this is the hope that we must not forget in the bleakness. Real power comes when we unite. And when we unite on a large scale, the world is forced to listen and take action. But I don't know any disabled people. When challenged about why more disabled people are not visible in public life, we hear this. And yet there are so many of us. Disability is family. The World Health Organization European office estimates that there are over 135 million disabled people living in Europe. In some of our local areas, 20 to 25% of the population are disabled people. That is a lot of people. We know disabled people. But perhaps that gap comes when we don't recognise the people that we know and care about and value in that negative picture of disabled people, where we are presented as the deficit version of the human being. It has a distancing and dehumanizing effect. The people we know don't fit that mold. But equally, this mysterious, homogenous group of people is presented as passive recipients with meaningless lives. As a result of that gap in understanding, it's possible to continue with the myth of broken people and justify inconsequential deaths in a pandemic. It means we can be institutionalized, segregated as disabled people are in Romania and Estonia, sent to live hundreds of miles away from our families in many European countries, become the hidden shame that has so much stigma attached. Why is our message so repeatedly unheard? How can we shift our message, shift thinking, shift cultures so that our message is received and understood? When we speak out in protest, we're civil disobedience, domestic extremists sometimes. And recently, in the UK, Disability News Service has been described as vexatious by the government for seeking the truth. Excuse me, seeking the truth about the impact of changes to benefits, where disabled people are already living on less than the breadline. The United Nations and Amnesty International have reported human rights abuses of disabled people in the last decade, pre-pandemic, and we hear stories, in this case from Italy, but all over Europe. And I quote, situations beneath the level of human dignity. And that's from the International Disability Alliance website. And we fight this. And there is hope. I promise you, there is hope. We together are the hope. But we have to be clear and we have to be honest about our position in the pandemic. So before the pandemic, there was, well, it's almost impossible to separate what has happened to disabled people during the pandemic from how it was before the pandemic. The pandemic has built upon austerity, poverty, and low status. So we must gather the stories, we must gather and share the testimonies, however hard it is to hear. The narrative about pre-existing and underlying conditions, vulnerability, age, and obesity has impacted on our medical treatment when ill. Learning disabled people have not even been counted. Do not resuscitate orders and frailty scores are used to triage us even before we become ill. We've had to shield and isolate, many people cut off, no access to food, money, services, no PPE for PAs and support staff. Inaccessibility has been exacerbated. No sign language for important messages from government. There are testimonies of people abandoned, left in bed for hours, left sitting in a wheelchair for hours, no access to toilets, hygiene, and human dignity. There has been isolation, bullying, and erasure. Many of us have had to fight for vaccines. PAs, families, and neighbours have become our literal lifelines. And there has been death and dying. And still, eugenics, population policies, social Darwinism, survival of the fittest are pushed forward as the solution. Why do stories matter? It's almost impossible to separate what has happened to disabled people socially and politically from art and culture. Culture is the vehicle for the messages of who we are as nations. We have to challenge the old stories which have modelled us in a certain way. Helpless, weak, pitiful. That's not me, and that's not you. We are told stories from the moment we're born, and those messages stick. So we have to be careful about stories. And there are notions that the arts are the arts in capital letters for other people, posh people, when in fact, the arts are around us all the time. the things that give us the most pleasure in our daily lives, the music on the radio that we sing in the bath, films and TV drama that grips us to the edge of our seat and grabs our imaginations, comedy from people who make us laugh so much, pictures and sculptures everywhere. We even send art to each other to mark special occasions, birthdays, anniversaries, and seasonal cards. Art and culture is not remote from us. It is in our everyday lives. Art and culture matters. Disabled artists and academics have helped us to unpick some of the most entrenched stories to reveal that disabled people have historically been shown in similar and stereotypical ways for thousands of years, and it continues in dominant art and culture. We're just sort of pinned there to benefit other people's stories. It perpetuates our status and misrepresents us. We are rarely in leading roles. We are rarely decision making. We rarely have power. And certainly in the arts, we are rarely producers, directors, writers, gallery curators. So the national stories haven't been changing on the surface of things. Solidarity, rights, and the role of culture. What has worked? We refuse to lose hope because there is so much more to art and culture than the monotone version presented to us as dominant. There are treasures and jewels in our communities, our arts communities, challenging, creating, provoking, banging on doors, banging drums to be seen and heard, to challenge how we are shown, demanding our rightful place. We have a stake in all of our national stories, and we must not settle for less. If culture is a site of oppression, culture is also the site of liberation and freedom. And we fight for that in what we say, in what we craft. And disabled artists have made a huge difference to the discussion about disability rights. Disabled people have come together to reclaim culture and to celebrate our identities and communities in the most clever, creative ways. We've continued to make work to protest and stay visible. Networks give us solidarity. There have been amazing examples of created work, new platforms, and we've all got very DIY in how we share our work. We are making our own opportunities. We shall not be removed in the UK. Disabled artists networking collectives all over Europe, Disconsortia in the Northeast, obviously Disability Arts Cymru, collectives in Ireland, European theatre companies and projects. Strength in numbers, strength in solidarity. We caution in the rush to reopen before it's safe for everyone. The rise of the digital world has opened up so many new channels of discussion, but we must not forget those without access to the internet and the digital world. We are not community without everyone. No one must be left behind. We've created guidelines and principles of inclusion. We have a stake. What we can do and what we must do. We have been consistently breaking the mold. We are speaking out, we are raising the roof, and we are lighting fires. We are demanding change. Culture is about who we are as humanity. It's time to change the stories and how they're told, and it's time to change who tells the stories. Together, we can build a roar, create a new wave of cultural activism which refuses to accept second best. We will paint, write, film, sing, play music. We have to look beyond what has gone before. Art and culture matter in the fight for equality. Disability is family. We are family. Thank you.
I'd like to thank you so much, Vicky, for that brilliant provocation, which reminds us again of the importance of social justice, of solidarity, of cultural activism, the importance of our stories, and how we must not be erased, and why no one should be left behind.